Hello, my friend. I sit outside in the sunshine. I've been considering your questions and you've given me some doozies here. The first one was, will Chinese bring the world to the brink of destruction? I can't think even your own State Department could answer this one with any certainty, but I'll have a go. I don't think their intention is to bring the world to the brink of its destruction, because that's not really in their interest or anybody else's. That's my first answer. But as to Chinese intentions, the wild card is Xi Jinping. I don't know much about him. I don't think people understand much about him, except that he seems to be a very hardline, I wouldn't say communist, but would I say Maoist? Would that be? He certainly is scrapped the policy of Deng Xiaoping, which is one of cooperation, whatever the end of his cooperation was, as you know, with your US unemployment and debts. Very good strategy. Sun Tzu, defeat your enemy without firing a shot. I don't know if that holds true with Xi Jinping. Okay, let's have a little look. I made some notes because I had to really think about it. Xi Jinping seems to have a problem. One seems to be of control and economics. He's set his mind upon unification with Taiwan, and to this end have been putting fortified islands in the South China Sea. Probably this comes to your third question, which was, what would the world reaction be? I think you can discount US reaction for the moment. But globally, the world cannot afford China to dominate or even be able to shut off the trade route of the South China Sea. I know the Russians are trying to open up their Northern Sea route. Do you want the Russians to control world trade through its waterways? I don't think so. I don't think USA would accept that under any circumstances. The EU might, because you know Germany and a lot of the EU trade with Russia, especially for energy. To be honest, I'm British. I live in the EU, and I'm perfectly well settled in that. But politically and strategically, honestly, Matt, you cannot trust the EU. Honestly, you can't. I wouldn't trust it as far as I could throw it, especially if it wanted its own armed forces. No way. No, thank you. So China has a problem. It's honking off so many people. It's unbelievable. You've got India for a start. It's got long-standing border problems with India, and India won't like the ability of China if it dominated the South China Sea. It would give China far too much global power. Malaysia is dependent upon trade through the South China Sea. Singapore, all big traders, all big exporters. Japan, they all depend on the South China Sea. Japan itself right now, because of this situation, is seriously considering adopting nuclear weapons itself. So that gives you some idea of the difficulty which is arising through this issue. I don't think that it's practical for China to actually try to take the South China Sea by force. It would create a reaction. So we come back to your first question. Will the Chinese bring the world to the brink of disaster? My opinion is if they started to use military force to retake Taiwan, which would cut the South China Sea strategically in half, you've already got the British government, through its intermediaries, say that it will use nuclear weapons. I believe Britain would use nuclear weapons unless it was actually absolutely slapped down by the USA. Problem there would be, you've made a threat with nuclear weapons. You have to use them if that event arises. Excuse me, itchy nose. You've got to use the deterrent. Because if you don't use the deterrent, it negates the whole legitimacy of that deterrent. So whether Xi Jinping understands this, that Britain, if America didn't stop this occurring, would use its nuclear weapons against China. And that would leave America in a position where it would also have to use its nuclear weapons against China, because China would respond in kind. That leaves another question. What would Russia do? Could Russia afford not to join in a nuclear exchange if it starts? Because once you start with nuclear weapons, it starts off a chain reaction. And you're in a use them or lose them situation. As you know, EMP and things like that will be flying all over the place. All your electronics will go to crap. So you'd be blind. Can you afford, as Russia, to be blind? I don't think so. So if that came, in my opinion, it would precipitate a nuclear war globally. That would be the nightmare scenario. You got another question that's coming up here. What if China tried to invade Taiwan? The first question is, does it have the littoral capability? Has it got enough landing ships to make a credible attack on invasion of China? It would have to dominate the sky, which possibly it could do if the US didn't intervene with its own air power and the Japan and things like that. I think that the air power combined could delay or at least prevent China dominating the air for a time. That would prevent a littoral landing, because Taiwan's main defense capability is to stop any invasion from landing on the beaches. The second one is naval power, of which China has naval power, but it hasn't got the right kind of naval power. Its missile capability is undeniable, and its long-range missile capability is absolutely phenomenal. But let's say a what if. What if China, with its present forces, tried to attack Taiwan? Could it be repulsed? My first opinion is initially yes. That would take China into the position of having to be in a long drawn out war. And what happens with long drawn out wars is unpredictable. You know that yourself with Iraq and places like that, and what's happened after the aftermath of it. The knock on effect is unpredictable. My feeling is, and it's only a feeling, I'm not an expert. My feeling is if Xi Jinping attacked Taiwan and its initial campaign was repulsed or was so costly, it would cause the Chinese military to rethink its position. I think at that point, Xi Jinping could be toppled. Then perhaps you would get some sort of negotiated settlements all round. I don't know. It's only guesswork. If Xi Jinping wasn't toppled and got China into a long-term war, then you would get India fighting alongside its other border, especially with the Tibetan question not being answered at all. In fact, Tibet is ethnic cleansing by the Chinese. There's no two ways of looking at that. It's ethnic cleansing. And China literally has rubbed India's rhubarb a lot lately. And India itself is quite capable of a land war with China on that border. Malaysia, that has a lot of manpower, and it's quite modern. It's got a great big economy. And who would China look for allies? Certainly not Vietnam. Vietnam's got its own bone to pick with China, and so does North Korea. Actually, they've had several spats. Japan, that would definitely join in against China, because it would not want China to dominate the South China Sea, and it's got its own island disputes with China anyway. So is Malaysia. Would Russia join China? Possibly yes. There's a conventional war I'm talking about. Possibly yes. It depends on a lot of things. But China has claimed Vladivostok back from the Russians, and the Russians are not very happy about that. So China's amassed a lot of bad feeling around the world. Its list of allies is quite thin. Another thing is, I have to look at my notes because I did make some notes. So China without allies is not in a good position. Now, strategically, China is a net importer of raw materials, particularly steel, and most particularly food and oil. And the place it gets it from mainly is through the South China Sea. There would be an embargo immediately. Yes, Iran would say we can supply China, but it still has to come either overland somehow, but it can't get past China. It can't get past India, can it? Russia's the only viable supply for China. That I would not do. Would China and Russia be cozy enough for Russia to supply China in such a war scenario? Bearing in mind, Russia's own economy would be suffering from such an event. So China is not in a good position long term. Would Russia intervene and risk the possibility of a nuclear war itself? I don't think Putin's that stupid. I really don't think he's that stupid. So, but would he allow China to be defeated? A wild card, I don't know. China could be defeated because I don't think China could sustain a long-term conventional war in the long run. I don't think it could. It could take the South China Sea and things like that, but it would still be at war. If it took China, if it took Taiwan, it could cut the South China Sea off completely. But then it would have to deal with one of the things what USA is, right? And I'll come to that in a minute. The USA responds very badly to people having a war with them. Very badly. I mean, like World War II, America only came into that because Japan attacked you. You weren't going to keep out completely. There was no appetite for involving themselves in a European or partially or in a global war. It had no appetite for it until it got attacked. That's a different matter. So we come to your fourth question. USA debt. Could China crush the USA economy? Yes, it could. Yes, it could. Simply put, it could. But here comes a problem for China, because its majority exporting partner is the United States of America. Now, in such things as consumer goods and such the likes, yes, the United States of America would hurt, but your large corporations would be hurt the most because they've got so much investment in China. And China is a bubble economically because all its major industries is on its coast. Where's its coast? South China Sea. So it's like two people sitting at a table that hate each other and each one has a gun with one bullet. That question comes, who fires first? A major difference between China and the USA is the USA has got access to its own very large resources. It's been salting away and filling its own oil fields up with Saudi oil and everywhere else. So it's got a large strategic reserve, and that it's got a huge amount of coal, which is the Saudi Arabia of coal, isn't it? So a steel industry could very well survive. America has a very large and sophisticated and developed internal economy, which means it could sell to itself very easily. If China tipped the dollar down the drain, China's own economy would go down the drain because America's dollar is the reserve currency. That means all trade globally is traded in dollars. What do you change it for? You could go to gold standard, but is there enough gold to support the trillions of dollars of global trade? Gold would shoot up to astronomical proportions on that in its value. Silver would follow suit. Commodities would follow suit because anything that has a commodity would have value. Platinum, copper, tin, iron maybe, food, everything will shoot up astronomically. America, unlike China, is very capable of feeding itself, but it would have to change its political basis dramatically. In the Great Depression, there was plenty of food to feed all Americans, yet Americans went hungry. Why? Because there was plying food up into the fields because nobody was selling it. Nobody could afford to buy it. They wanted to maintain. They were plying it under. You would have to stop that. The emergency measures would actually make you a more communist society. So China could not crush America economically as such. Yes, it would cause major changes, but it would crush itself in the long run because China relies upon food imports because its own agricultural base has been devastated. Even more so if they got a war we've got a war with Taiwan, and why Taiwan bombed its bloody major dams and absolutely destroyed its agricultural base, and that is a good possibility. So, is nuclear war probable? Yes, it is. It's probable. Not desirable, it's probable. But my hope is if firing does start, it's non-nuclear, and Taiwan repulses an initial invasion by, not just Taiwan, the Allied forces resist a littoral landing by China and create an opportunity for other forces within China to topple the Xi Jinping regime. And I think you've got to look at it this way. How many wars has America and its allies fought over the past 40 years? China has not fought a major war since the Korean War. It's had some spats with North Vietnam, yes, but it's not fought a major war since the Korean War, which is what, coming on 60 years? The PLA is okay for putting down its own people and things like that and controlling that. But is it in a fit condition to fight? It could learn over a protracted period of warfare. Yes, all armies do. Everything does. But it's actually, when you look at it, raw when it comes to a conflict. So would the Chinese PLA generals put up with such a humiliation? The last thing you do with the Chinese is make them lose face. And if Xi Jinping, with his adventurism like that, made the Chinese PLA generals feel they've lost face, I think they would topple him. So I'm sorry it's a lengthy reply, but I had to really think about this one. And thank you for asking the question. I really appreciate your inputs. So take care. Give my regards to everybody. And so long from Bulgaria.